This program is brought to you by First National Bank of Botswana.
FNB, how can we help you?
Good evening and a very warm welcome to First Issues. When looking to chart the path for Botswana becoming a diverse and high-income economy, the stories of other countries that have successfully and radically managed to transform their own economies become the most obvious and most relevant points of reference. The stories of Singapore, Mauritius and Rwanda are very popular within the business community, but tonight we present the often overlooked example of Estonia. Having had the opportunity to speak to members of a delegation from that country during a recent work visit to Botswana. The Deputy Foreign Minister of Estonia, Vaino Reinhardt, as well as the head of the policy and advisory body of that same country, Rein Lang, share with us the ways in which their country fought its way to developed status in the few years since it tore away from the communist Soviet Union in 1991.
When we regained our independence back in 1991, our economy was clearly in ruins. The average GDP per head in Estonia at the time was, well, the statistics gives us different figures, but it was around like $2,000 per head. Well, it was now 27 years from 1991, our average GDP per head in Estonia is more than $31,000 per head on purchasing power parity basis. So that's a huge development, and I believe that also constitutes a reasonably good example on how these things could be done if you really commit yourself to carrying out these reforms, what may be sometimes painful, but what in our case clearly have been bearing fruits.
Estonia's independence dates back to 1918, but we had not a privileged but a very bad period of Soviet occupation until 1991. And when we regained our independence in 1991, the country was actually in ruins. Our GDP per person was below 3,000 American dollars per person, and our industrial output was mostly oriented to military production. We didn't have any external market for our goods and services, and almost 30% of our GDP came from agriculture, and more than 30% of the population was engaged in agriculture. Today, what we see in Estonia, we have become a high-income country. Our GDP per person is a little bit more than 30,000 American dollars per person. We are dependent on our service industry. We also have a mining industry, but we don't have diamonds. We mine oil shale, and we produce electricity from oil shale, but this is not a very great source of income. And the slice of agriculture nowadays is only close to 3% from the GDP. The rest is industry. And from the service industry, already more than 30% is ICT, intellectual communication technology. That means software, different communication solutions, cybersecurity companies, and these companies are active all over the world. The company I'm representing today is also active all over the world, and we are seeking also business opportunities here in Botswana. We are doing business in Botswana at this stage already. We are working together with URS on a project at this moment. We find it a very attractive place. So, and those companies like us, like Nortal, there are tens of them who are seeking opportunities to work and collaborate with the foreign companies all over the world.
What was quintessential in really driving this, the political, not the will behind the transformation? Was it any one person? Was it the private sector? Was it government? What really drove this effort?
Well, back in 1991, we didn't exactly have a private sector. So as the economy under the Soviet rule belonged to the state, so obviously we didn't have a private sector, and we didn't have any particular legal framework for market economy either. So it actually, it had to be the government taking the lead, reforming the country. And basically what we did was we liberalized everything. We liberalized trade, we liberalized investments, we did away with as many different kinds of licensing rules that we had under the Soviet rule. So we basically liberalized the country to make it possible for the economies to invest, to trade, to work together with the interested partners globally, making sure that the citizens of Estonia would be able to enjoy the fruits of the radical reform process, what was, as I said, sometimes painful, but what clearly started bearing fruit sooner rather than later.
It is a political issue. On one stage you have to make a decision where to invest, what kind of economy you want to develop. We were lucky enough to switch from industrial development to high-tech development in the mid-90s of the previous century. And the narratives actually what were during those days used was that as Estonia is a very small country, 1.3 million people, so we don't have to waste our resources for bureaucracy and administration. So we have to get the computers to do that job. And we also made a clear decision that we will skip some stages of development. For example, Estonians have never used bank checks in their lives. They switched from the old analog type of banking to the internet banking.
Looking at Botswana now, what 4 quick wins do you think would really bring about some radical changes for us?
But what I believe serves as a very good example as far as Estonia goes is indeed the way we have been able to put internet at the service of the government as well as at the service of the general public. So we have been able to put virtually all of the public services what technically could be offered over the internet on the internet. So you can pay your taxes, you can register companies, you can have access to more than 2,000 different kind of services over the internet offered by more than 200 different services providers. And that includes both governmental services as well as private services. So the Estonian citizens can communicate with their government over the internet 24/7 for free and can have access to all of the public services what technically could be offered over the internet.
According to the World Bank surveys, what we can see is that those countries make better life for their citizens who get rid of bureaucracy and who invest into digital administration, new type of technology, and that means also that you have to oversee all your business processes. You shouldn't digitalize old-fashioned business processes, but think in the way that people and private businesses are those who actually create added value and make better living for the country.
What is the future of help? It's to help people find the great in themselves. The drive, the passion. Help them find their true potential. Help them stretch. Help them grow. That's why we help people help themselves, help the world, because a little help goes a long, long way. FNB, how can we help you?
Welcome back to First Issues. Have you ever had your smart device suggest to you the quickest route home, or even give you a traffic update? Having secretly been monitoring your daily commute and without you ever having entered in your home address? Or have the calendar app on your mobile device send you a reminder about an upcoming work trip simply because it took the liberty of reading the information from an air ticket that was emailed to you? So much of your personal information exists in cyberspace. Your spending habits, as more and more products and services are availed for online shopping, your personal values, hobbies, preferences, and tastes, thanks to your Google and social media history. And even the state of your health, as people use wearable technology to count their steps, monitor their vitals, and even evaluate the quality of their sleep. This data is not just big business for marketers. With big names the likes of Google set to be joining the insurance industry soon, the relationship between technology and insurance is definitely gaining momentum. There's even a name for this growing phenomenon, Insuretch, which industry commentator from international publication Cover Magazine, Tony van Niekerk, updates us on.
One of the very important factors about insurance is to understand your risk. And to understand your risk, obviously you have to understand where the risk comes from, who the person is, who the client is, who the business is, what the type of thing is that you're insuring, whether it's a person, an object, a process, a liability, whatever it is. And insurance has always been about understanding that. It's always been about knowing as much as possible about the risk that you're insuring. And there's always been data analytics in insurance. What has just happened is technology is making it easier for us to refine that analytics and to have more data available and more variables that we can actually measure against each other to understand that risk better. So in that sense, data analytics is nothing new. It is just the fact that it's become really, really important and that we've got better tools to work with.
So now in this era where people are monitoring everything from their sleep to their holidays, insurers will now have a lot more information to judge somebody's risk.
A lot of people are worried about their privacy, etc. But the fact is, if you have a credit card, then your privacy is already compromised. If you have a Facebook page, your privacy is compromised because there's a lot of detail about yourself. The important thing going forward is, I think, that you can't actually protect your privacy in terms of everything nobody knows about you. I don't even think it will work if you go and live in some forest or jungle somewhere to be able to be incognito. It's about protecting that privacy rather than anything else and allowing people to use the data where you agree to have them use that data. Yes.
Which trends should insurers be aware of that are really changing the way they should approach cover?
What is important in terms of data analytics is that it's not just about understanding, having more information to rate the risk. It's also having more information to understand your client's behavior, to understand their needs, to understand how best to service those needs, how to give them the best premium for the risk that they have, how to assist them to minimize their risk, to manage their risk, because nobody wants to have an accident. You want to be insured when you have one, but you don't want to have an accident. So if an insurer can assist with reducing that risk of having an accident, and then if there is an accident, ensuring or assisting with the trauma that comes after it by making the process of getting the vehicle off the road, getting the vehicle sorted out, assisting the client to get to a hospital, all of that. That's also understanding your client. Data analytics also helps with that. That's the one big thing. So if you then pull it through to what insurance is all about, it's still about people, people who own things, people who have lives, people who have illnesses, etc., etc., people who have kids with needs, and so on. So the big thing is to, with the current trend, is to get closer to the client, to allow the client to get closer to you, to understand their needs better, and therefore to service those needs better. So this is being done by things like as and when insurance on demand. In other words, you only insure something when you need it to be insured. It's about being able to use your mobile to get in contact, to be able to easily access insurance, claims, etc., contact to make changes, and so on. And it's about being getting the client to actually trust that you are there for them. And that's one of the big things about Insuretch.
What is the future of help? It's to help people find the great in themselves. The drive, the passion. Help them find their true potential. Help them stretch. Help them grow. That's why we help people help themselves, help the world. Because a little help goes a long, long way. FNB, how can we help you?
Welcome back to First Issues. Wisdom is knowing that your health is your wealth. You don't win by completely running down your body in pursuit of professional achievements. Not getting enough sleep, not eating right, not being physically active year after year will eventually see you being forced to spend all that hard-earned money on medical care. Being forced to watch from the sidelines, physically unable to work and participate in the career or business you have built. Health is also multifaceted. It is how you care for your body and your mind that will see you hopefully spared from becoming a statistic in this era of astronomically high rates of non-communicable diseases in every corner of the globe. Professor Kiran Bhagat tells us the ways in which you take ownership of your health right from the moment you get up in the morning.
Let's break it down into segments. Let's talk about different parts of the day. And if we just start with the morning is one where you wake up and you have to ask yourself the first thing that when you wake up, are you waking up refreshed? Are you waking up feeling tired, like you haven't had enough sleep? Are you waking up with a headache? Are you waking up feeling terribly hungry? Are you waking up? So when you wake up in the morning, ask yourself, how have I slept? Because that will determine what happens in the evening. So if you wake up feeling refreshed, if you feel like you've had enough sleep and you're ready for the day, then it means that the body is energized. If you haven't, it tends to suggest either a lack of sleep or something's gone on during the night that's caused poor sleep. Because remember, it's not only the amount of hours that you sleep, which we'll talk about as the evening program, but it's the quality of the time that you sleep that's important. Now we're beginning to understand that there are different phases of sleep, and some people may sleep a solid 8 hours but still feel tired in the morning. So when you get up in the morning, are you energized? And at this point, it's important to also appreciate that there are different types of people. Everybody knows this, but we're only beginning to understand the biology of what's called chronology. In other words, the public out there, each person has a genetic inheritance, if you like, that predetermines whether they are a daytime person, a nighttime person. There are some people that just simply cannot get up in the morning, or that they have brain fog until 10, 11 o'clock in the morning. There are others that can wake up, at 3, 4 in the morning and they're up, And there are others that wake up towards the afternoon and can be night owls. They can, go to bed at 11, 12 o'clock at night and be fully functional, active and alert. Now we're beginning to understand that sometimes that is inbuilt into your genetic makeup. In fact, schools, for example, in Scandinavia are beginning to type children to say this child is slow to warm up in the morning, and so start this child's school at 11 o'clock, because that's how their brain functions. And forcing people into a 9 to 5 or a 7 to 4 routine has had its detriments, and now we begin to understand. So that if you're waking up in the morning and you're feeling like you haven't got that stamina, it may simply be that you're not that type of person. Having said that, if you wake up in the morning, what is the first thing you should be doing? The first thing you should be doing is hydrating yourself. So it's either plain water, and where possible, filter the water. You have a filter, or make sure you boil the water, because our water often contains a lot of chlorine as it's being purified. You want to boil out some of the toxins in that water. So boil the water or filter the water. At least a cup or two of water to get the system hydrated, because you've been sleeping, you've not had any hydration over the last 8 or 9 hours, the body's dehydrated. People often rush for coffee or tea, and that instant hit is not a good idea. Because remember, today, unlike the caveman day where we woke up when the sun rose, we're waking up often when it's dark. So you're setting your alarm clock to wake up, okay? And so that alarm clock is not your biological clock. So when the alarm clock says 5 o'clock and it rings, your body is still asleep. Your body naturally wakes up with the sun. So as your body is asleep, so is your digestive process asleep. Your pancreas and your intestines, the juices that normally break down food or coffee, are not yet activated. It takes time. So if you glug down a cup of coffee to wake you up, or you have something, you have breakfast very quickly, those things are not digested because the body is still taking time to adjust. Important also is to make sure that you take time to take some deep breaths, to oxygenate your system, and very important, the best time to exercise is actually in the morning, because that's when the hormones that wake you up, again, the caveman days, the first thing we did when we woke up is we were preparing ourselves to go and find food. So the hormones that make you alert, that make you able to run or chase an animal, are high, your adrenaline, your cortisol, and these hormones that are high are best utilized in the morning in terms of exercise. And also when you exercise, and it can be just walking outside, it doesn't have to go to the gym, you don't have to have a fancy treadmill or a bike, but if you have those things, then use them. 15-20 minutes a day is all that we say is important to enliven your body, to energize your body. And we know that during exercise, you produce chemicals. We call them BDNF, which stands for brain-derived natriuretic factor, which basically means brain growth factor. It stimulates your brain. So a little bit of exercise in the morning before you eat is a very important thing. So it's hydration. It's first questioning whether you've slept well or not. Hydrate yourself, take some exercise, and then consider what you want to eat for your breakfast.
This program was brought to you by First National Bank of Botswana.
FNB, how can we help you?